My name is Emily Carter, and the day my grandmother's will was read, I didn't just lose my family. I became the family's villain. It happened in less than 30 seconds. The lawyer had barely finished reading the first page when my aunt suddenly stood up, slammed both hands on the table, pointed directly at me and screamed, "She manipulated Mom. She stole our inheritance." The room fell completely silent. I could hear nothing except my own heartbeat. My cousins stared at me. My uncles exchanged confused looks. Even the lawyer stopped speaking. I looked at my aunt, expecting her to calm down. Instead, she pulled a thick folder from her purse and threw it onto the conference table. "There!" she shouted. "That's proof she planned this all along." I didn't even know what was inside the folder. But by the expressions on everyone's faces, it didn't matter. The damage was already done. In that moment, the entire family believed her. What none of them knew was that my grandmother had expected this exact scene months before she died. And she had secretly left behind something that would expose every lie. My grandmother, Margaret Carter, was the strongest person I'd ever known. After Grandpa passed away, she refused to leave the little white house where they'd lived for 43 years. Everyone offered to help. Almost nobody actually did. My Aunt Linda visited only on holidays. My cousins came when they needed money. Most relatives called once every few months. I was different. Every Saturday morning, I drove 45 minutes to Grandma's house. Sometimes we baked cookies. Sometimes we watched old black and white movies. Sometimes we simply sat on the porch drinking tea while she told stories about Grandpa. She never asked me to come. I came because I loved her. She often smiled and said, "Emily, time is the most expensive gift you'll ever give someone." Back then I thought she was simply being sentimental. Now, I understand exactly what she meant. As Grandma grew older, her health slowly declined. Walking became difficult. Cooking became dangerous. Reading became almost impossible. I started helping with grocery shopping, doctor appointments, and paying bills online. I never expected anything in return. In fact, whenever she tried giving me money, I refused. She'd laugh and hide $20 bills inside my purse anyway. That was Grandma, always trying to take care of everyone else. Linda saw things differently. Whenever she visited, the first question wasn't, "How are you feeling?" It was, "Have you updated your will?" Grandma usually changed the subject. After Linda left, she'd shake her head and quietly say, "Some people count love in dollars." Those words stayed with me. About a month before Grandma passed away, she called and asked me to come over. When I arrived, she seemed unusually serious. She reached into an old wooden drawer beside her chair and removed a tiny silver key attached to a faded blue ribbon. She placed it in my hand. "If anything strange happens after I'm gone, take this to Mr. Harrison, our lawyer." She nodded. "But don't tell anyone you have it." I looked confused. "What's it for?" She smiled gently. "You'll know when the time comes." I wanted to ask more questions, but she simply changed the subject and asked if I wanted another cup of tea. That was the last Saturday we ever spent together. 3 weeks later, Grandma passed away peacefully in her sleep. The funeral was beautiful. People cried, shared memories, talked about her kindness. Even Linda gave a touching speech about how much she loved her mother. Listening to it, you'd think she'd been there every day. I stayed quiet. Grief has a way of making arguments feel meaningless. A week later, the entire family gathered at Mr. Harrison's law office for the reading of Grandma's will. I expected it to be emotional. I never expected it to become the beginning of the biggest betrayal of my life. Because before the meeting was over, my own aunt would convince almost everyone in that room that I had stolen Grandma's entire inheritance. Mr. Harrison adjusted his glasses and continued reading Grandma's will. The house located at 214 Maple Street. He paused for a moment. "Shall be inherited by my granddaughter, Emily Carter." The room instantly exploded. My Aunt Linda shot to her feet. "What? That's impossible." She pointed straight at me. "I knew it. She manipulated Mom. She visited every weekend just to steal that house." My cousins looked at me in shock. One of them even whispered, "I can't believe she'd do that." I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't get a single word out. Then Linda threw a folder onto the table. I have proof. Inside were copies of my text messages with Grandma. She had highlighted every message where I asked if Grandma needed groceries, medicine, or help with bills. Linda smiled confidently. See? She was slowly taking control of Mom's life. Mr. Harrison calmly looked through the papers, then placed them back on the table. Mrs. Bennet, helping your mother isn't evidence of manipulation. Linda folded her arms. Then prove she didn't pressure Mom. Those words made me remember something. The silver key. After the meeting ended, I stayed behind. I quietly placed the small silver key on Mr. Harrison's desk. His eyes widened. So, Margaret gave it to you. He unlocked an old filing cabinet hidden behind a bookshelf. Inside was a small locked metal box. He opened it using the key. There were several documents, and one flash drive sealed inside an envelope. Across the envelope, written in Grandma's handwriting, were the words, "If anyone questions Emily's honesty, play this." Mr. Harrison looked at me. I think your grandmother knew this day was coming. The next afternoon, every family member was invited back to the office. Linda arrived looking confident. She smiled at everyone. I suppose we're finally correcting yesterday's mistake. Mr. Harrison didn't answer. Instead, he plugged the flash drive into the television. The screen faded to black. Then, Grandma appeared. She was sitting in her favorite rocking chair with a warm smile. If you're watching this, I'm probably gone. The room became completely silent. Grandma continued. I've lived long enough to know that money changes people. So before anyone argues about my decisions, I want everyone to hear this from me. She looked directly into the camera. Emily never asked me for money. Not once. She came every Saturday because she loved me. She cooked with me. She cleaned my house. She drove me to doctor's appointments. And she stayed when everyone else found excuses not to. I felt tears running down my face. Then Grandma's expression became serious. But if Linda tells you Emily manipulated me, she's lying. Linda's face turned white. She looked as though all the air had left the room. Grandma wasn't finished. She reached beside her chair and picked up a small notebook. I've kept a journal. Every visit. Every phone call. Every person who asked me for money. Mr. Harrison quietly placed the actual journal on the conference table. Every page was dated. Emily Saturday. Emily Saturday. Emily Saturday. Page after page. Linda's name appeared only a handful of times. Next to one visit, Grandma had written, Linda asked if I planned to change my will again. Another entry read, she seemed more interested in my house than my health. The room was silent. Nobody could deny the truth anymore. Linda finally stood up. I didn't know Mom kept records. Mr. Harrison answered calmly. She did. And she wanted the truth to speak for itself. Without another word, Linda picked up her purse and walked out. No one tried to stop her. Over the next few weeks, several relatives called to apologize. They admitted they had believed Linda too quickly. I accepted their apologies, but I never forgot how easily they had turned against me. A few months later, I moved into Grandma's house. The first thing I unpacked wasn't my clothes. It was her old photo album and the journal she had left behind. Sometimes I sit on the same porch where we drank tea every Saturday, and I remember something Grandma used to tell me. The truth doesn't need the loudest voice. It only needs time. She was right, because in the end, I didn't inherit the house because I wanted it. I inherited it because I was there when she needed someone the most. And no lie could ever erase that.